Next governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Libertarian Ken Krawchuk. Ken is a business owner. He's well-versed in the economics of the state of Pennsylvania. He has campaigned before, and this time we have a lot of momentum for him. I'm going to let him tell you his story.
Where's my campaign manager? Mark, where's my teleprompter?
Don't get one.
I don't get one? Again? Do you mean I gotta tell people what I think and feel?
Because you're...
All right, I can handle this. I'm a Toastmaster. What do I think? What do I feel? You know, I love feedback. No, I love Pennsylvania. I love the quiet majesty of hiking the Appalachian Trail. I love the beauty of watching the sunset over Lake Erie. I like the solitude of the state forests. I love the hustle and bustle of the great cities, and I really, really like the diversity of our people. But you know, with all those great things going for Pennsylvania, we have some problems here. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to introduce myself, my party, and the theme of my campaign this year. Can we get somebody to adjust this sound, please? Thank you. Thank you.
Mike, pull the whole mic back.
Pull the mic forward?
No, back to your
Higher.
Just pull it back towards you. The whole mic. That's it. That's better.
There you go. I'm an IT guy, right? You think I know something about sound. There you go. That's a lot better.
That's excellent.
All right. So what I'd like to do, I see a lot of new faces out here, so what I'd like to do is introduce myself, introduce the party, and then introduce my theme for the campaign this year. Sound good? All right.
Sounds great.
My name is Ken Krawchuk. I am the Libertarian Party candidate for governor of Pennsylvania. 65 years old. Been married to my first wife, Roberta, now for 41 years. Been a long time. She hasn't gotten tired of me yet. We have 3 beautiful daughters, 3 grandchildren. And you know, our kids make fun of us. They say, all of our friends' parents are divorced and separated. What's wrong with you guys? Well, I guess she hasn't gotten tired of me yet. I haven't worn her out. Professionally, I'm an information technology entrepreneur. I hold 3 United States patents related to database theory. So if there are any geeks in the audience, maybe afterwards we can get together and talk about some of them. I'm also an author. I have written a sequel to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged called Atlas Snubbed. It points out how you can build a society exclusively on the non-aggression principle, the fact that you have the right to live your life your way without interference, provided only that you respect the rights and property of others. I'm also a Toastmaster. And for those who don't know, Toastmasters is an international organization whose mission is to provide a supportive environment for learning public speaking and leadership skills. So that way you don't get flustered when all of a sudden you get a lot of feedback and things don't quite go as you expect and there's no teleprompter. I highly recommend Toastmasters for everybody, whether or not you're thinking about running for public office. So that's a quick introduction of myself. Businessman, family man, author, inventor, Toastmaster. But most importantly, I'm a libertarian. We libertarians are different from the 2 old parties because we are the party of principle. Every law we support, every law we oppose can all be traced back to one central idea. The idea that your life is yours, that your property is yours, that you have the inalienable right to live your life your way without interference, provided only you respect the rights and property of others. That's it. That's what it means to be a libertarian. Your life your way as long as you respect others. And the public has reacted very favorably to this message. Since our founding in 1971, we have grown to become the 3rd largest party, hands down, outnumbering all the other 3rd parties put together. That's in terms of registrations, elected officials, and media attention. We currently have dozens of elected libertarians here in Pennsylvania, hundreds nationwide, and that's all the way down from the lowest level right on up to state houses scattered around the country. On the political scene, I like to refer to us as the 800-pound chihuahua. And we're growing faster than all the other third parties. It's the golden rule on a political level. That's what it comes down to. Now let me ask, how many of you believe that you have the right to live your life your way, provided you respect the rights and property of others? Show of hands. Look, everyone's hand goes up. We all believe that. We're all libertarian. You may be registered Democrat, you may be registered Republican, maybe you don't vote at all. But if you believe in the political golden rule, you're a small L libertarian. Since that's true of virtually everybody, let me ask a question. Why aren't you voting that way? Now you have a chance. Today we've heard from how many? 9, 10, 11 different state rep, state senate, congressional candidates, statewide candidates, and we're not done yet. You're going to have a lot of chances this year to vote libertarian. So there's something about myself, something about the party. What can you expect from a libertarian governor? Well, obviously you're going to find somebody who's going to respect your right to live your life your way. The theme of all my campaigns up to this point, because I have run before, I ran for governor of Pennsylvania against Ed Rendell in 2002, against Tom Ridge in 1998, and a few other local races, my town council in Abington Township. But in all those races, the theme has been the same. Your life, your way, as long as you respect others. This year, though, I'm going to build upon that. So for the first time publicly, I would like to let you know the theme for this year's campaign. Can you take a guess? It's death and taxes. I am the death and taxes candidate, the libertarian candidate. It will be my goal as governor of Pennsylvania to reduce death and taxes in the Commonwealth as much as possible. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go through that. How am I going to be able to do that? Let's break it down into two things. Let's start with the death, then we'll go into the taxes. Each one, I have a 3-step plan. For death, let's start with the most pressing problem in Pennsylvania when it comes to people dying. Do you know that while you were sleeping last night, 2 Pennsylvanians died? While you were on your way to this rally, waiting for me to get up here and speak, 2 more died. Before you go to bed tonight, 2 more are going to die, and while you're sleeping tonight, 2 more are going to die. Every day, about 10 Pennsylvanians die from the same government-induced catastrophe. And you know what it is. It's called the opioid crisis. That's right, the opioid crisis. We're all familiar with it. One after another, people are winding up dying from this. And it's not a new problem. It goes back hundreds of years. Edgar Allan Poe died from an accidental overdose of opiates. Recently, Tom Petty, the singer, died from an accidental overdose of opioids. Did you notice the word I said there? Accidental. They didn't mean to die. In fact, Scientific American did a study, and they found out that virtually every opioid death is accidental. They found it's susceptible. They're susceptible to death for 2 main reasons. Number 1, quality control. They're street drugs. They don't know what they're buying. It could be anything. It's like going into a bar saying, give me a glass of water, you take a swig, you go, it's vodka, man. Not what you want. So this is one of the main reasons people are dying from opioids. The second main reason Scientific American found out is because they're mixing it with commonly available drugs. Sometimes it may just be alcohol, having a beer. Accidental deaths, virtually every one. And they just keep dying. And you know, it's not just a broadband thing, it's a very racist thing. Because even though opioid use is pretty much the same among all races, 4 out of 5 deaths are occurring among minorities. What do we do? What do we do to save these people who are dying every 2.5 hours? Well, obviously what we're doing now is not working. The 2 old parties don't have the solution. They would have done it by now. Well, let's look around. Has anything worked anywhere around the world? It has. If I told you a way we could reduce opioid use by 75%, if I told you a way we could reduce opioid deaths by 85%, if I told you a way that we could reduce HIV-related infections by over 90%, would you be interested?
Legalized.
Because these are the numbers being reported by the Portuguese Health Ministry. They have reduced dramatically opioid use, opioid death, HIV infections. And do you know how they did it? They legalized all drugs. They ended their insane war on drugs.
Thank you. It's a war
Seems
we'll never
counterintuitive,
win.
but this is what happened. The way they did it, and this isn't some flash in the pan, they did this back in 2001. So here it is, 17 years later, the results are in, and the results are dramatic. What they did, in order to take care of the purity problem, the street drug problem, they set up free testing centers. So if you cop some drug, you go to the testing center, they check it out, they say, this is good. Oh, no, this is fentanyl, don't take it, be careful with it. So they eliminated half of the accidental deaths that way. And the other half, if you're a drug user, if you go into a police station now and say, excuse me, I'm a heroin addict, can you help me? Yeah, they're gonna put you in a cage. No, that's not what they did. What they do in Portugal, you get a free healthcare worker, your own social worker. And what they'll do is they will advise you, they'll set you down the path, they'll listen to you, they'll help you with your problem, and they'll help you to recover. So that takes care of the two main causes of death from opioids in America. The accidental death from quality control and accidental death from the lack of knowledge. And you may say, oh, Ken, come on, how much is that going to cost? Well, look at it this way. Right now, the United States is spending $10,000 per household on drugs to stop the flow of drugs. In Portugal, for this plan, it's $10 a person. You save a lot of money. You save a lot of lives. I don't know you, but I'm tired of all the deaths. I'm tired of hearing about them. 75% reduction in the use of opioids. 85% reduction in the number of deaths. 90% plus reduction in HIV infections. All we have to do is reach for it. And the only way to reach for it is to vote Libertarian. Thank you. So that's one way, the most extreme way to end death in Pennsylvania. End the insane drug war. Number two, it's not every 2.5 hours, it's on average every 2.5 weeks. Somebody else is being killed, dies in Pennsylvania from an unnecessary source. What's the source? Well, let me ask you a question first. What do you think about the police? And no, I'm not talking about the rock band. I'm talking about the ladies and men in blue. Does your heart start to race when you see one in your rearview mirror? Does your heart stop when those lights go on? And isn't it ironic how those lights are red, white, and blue? But I digress. And if they pull you over, do you have a heart attack while you're sitting there in your car? I don't know anybody who doesn't. And you know, it's funny because the police are sworn to protect us. Why are we afraid of our protectors? I'm a graduate of the Abington Township Citizens Police Academy. I've seen firsthand how police operate. And do you know what? They're the good guys. They have the best interests of their community at heart. So where's the disconnect here? Why are we afraid of our own protectors? Easy answer. How many people have run away from the police at some point? While you were a kid, a teenager, show of hands. How many of us have run from the police? Look at that, most hands are going up. It's as American as apple pie running from the cops. People say, why run from the cop? If you've done nothing wrong, why run? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and recently there's been a lot more reasons. And this summer there have been several good reasons. In East Pittsburgh, there's a teenager. He was in a car, got stopped by the cops, and the cops were ready to put in handcuffs the driver. The two teenagers in the back seat said, oh no, I'm out of here. And they started running. The one officer pulled out a service revolver, pow, 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 shot one of the fleeing teens in the back. An unarmed 17-year-old, dead. After that, I guess it was about a month ago, there was a car parked in one of the state forests. My wife and I, we visit the state forest all the time. We park middle of nowhere in the state forest. What we'll do is we'll take a couple chairs, some munchies, we'll go up a stream, set the chairs up in the middle of the stream, and we'll sit there and enjoy the solitude. Well, there was a state forest worker who saw the car, and he thought, this looks suspicious. He called the state police. The state police came in, sent in a chopper, commandeered a bulldozer, go looking for who owns this car. Well, they found him when they ran over him, killed him. Turns out there were a couple of pot plants in the area. They didn't even know they were there. They didn't even know these guys were related to it. And there's no reason to be running over somebody with a bulldozer just because there are a couple pot plants, not cot plants, pot plants around. Last month in Lancaster, the guy sitting on the curb, he's already incapacitated, he's got cuffs on, he's sitting on the curb. Cop took his taser, bam, tasered him in the back. A helpless guy. We've got too many situations where these cowboy cops are out there shooting innocent citizens, unarmed citizens, for no good reason. And you know who investigates them? Internal affairs, like the fox guarding the hen house. Oh yeah, we'll look into it. We'll let you guys know how it comes out. Not a good idea. And you know what? I bet you, I haven't heard the results of any of those three that I just mentioned. I haven't heard the results yet, but I'll bet you that they are going to say the cops were doing the right thing. Do you know why? You should read the law that authorizes the police to use it. It says, I'm not going to read the whole thing in the interest of time, let me summarize. It said, police are allowed to use whatever force is necessary to effect the arrest. It doesn't say where, when, or why, just they could do what they want. So they could walk up to you in the street, punch you in the jaw, and say, you're under arrest. It's like, wait a minute. For using deadly force, it's a little bit longer, but it starts off with the same line. They can use deadly force to effect the arrest. And then there's a few other things in there, like to stop somebody from being killed, which I agree with completely. And other things like, well, maybe they're going to be killed, maybe they're this, maybe, a lot of maybes. And it's these maybes where the cops are getting away with killing people. In order to end the reign of these cowboy cops and to turn our persecutor back into our protector, I'm proposing numerous changes to the law. I call them the 10 Cop Commandments. I already mentioned one of them, no more internal affairs. Goes first to a real judge with a real jury, and they'll decide. But the main thing I want to do is I want to change the law to where it says, use whatever force is necessary to effect the arrest, cross that out. I want to use whatever force is necessary to save lives, period. Shouldn't be a death sentence to run from a policeman. Shouldn't be a death sentence to go plant a seed out in the state forest. Shouldn't be a death sentence for any of these things. And when I'm governor of Pennsylvania, I will work to end those deaths that happen on average once every 2.5 weeks. That's two. There's a third one. Third one's kind of interesting because this one, it kind of occurs and it doesn't occur, but it occurs every 3.5 weeks on average. And this is going back to 1985. I'm talking about Pennsylvania's penchant for the death penalty. Right now, there are 185 people, I believe, on death row. Fortunately, there's a moratorium on capital punishment in Pennsylvania. As governor of Pennsylvania, I promise I will continue that moratorium, and I will do my best to end the death penalty in Pennsylvania. Thank you. There are too many cases where it happens. And first of all, how do you know the guy is really and truly innocent? Our courts, of course, are infallible. Not. And if you kill the guy, There's no going back. It's not like, oh, I'm sorry, we jailed you incorrectly for half your life. We'll give you several $1 million and please go away. No, there's no turning back. And once they have it for one crime, they're going to certainly expand it to others. You may remember a few years ago, Newt Gingrich said, I want the death sentence for certain kinds of drug crimes. Not that the drug war isn't insane in of itself. Now he's going to take this insane war on drugs and not only kill one person every 2.5 hours, he's going to add to that death total. This is crazy. So we've got to nip this in the bud, end this right now. And there are economic reasons too. Do you know that if the prosecutor says, I'm going to go for the death sentence on this one, he just said, taxpayers of Pennsylvania, you're going to pay $1 million more in order to get this guy convicted. And there's always the simple case, one of the 10 commandments, not commandments, commandments, thou shalt not kill. It is immoral to kill. As governor, I refuse to use the power of government to kill. I am not a murderer. Let me stop right there. There are other examples, but they're the three biggies. As the death and taxes candidate, I will eliminate the top 3 causes of death in Pennsylvania by the government. I'm going to end this insane war on drugs using the Portugal model. I'm going to rein in these cowboy cops by changing the law. And number 3, I'm going to refuse to sign a single death warrant. And you know what's really funny? Thank you. Thank you. And you know what's really funny? Death warrants are still getting signed. Governor Wolf, you know, I could say some nice things about him. That's one of them. He's maintained his moratorium, and he hasn't signed a death warrant. But you know what? They're getting signed anyway. Do you know why? There's a bureaucrat signing them for him. The head of the corrections, the Secretary of Corrections. I don't want bureaucrats signing death sentences. I will do my best to stop all of that nonsense. So there's death. All right, let's go to a happier note here, taxes. Yeah, right. Laughing at that. I would too. They're taxes. Taxes are through the roof. Do you know that the cost of government here in Pennsylvania has been rising at more than 3 times the rate of inflation on average for over 50 years? It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat in office, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican office. The direction is up, 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 up. That's because they love to glad hand your money around, saying, oh, you got a problem here, let me give you some money. A couple of our candidates earlier were pointing to some great examples of different ways they just love to buy your vote. It's your money. What was the phrase that you used? They bring home the bacon. They'll give you a pound of bacon, but you got to remember, you paid $10 worth for that 1 pound of bacon. And they play the hero. Ridiculous. Crazy. As governor, that trend will end. I promise that we are going to stop the growth of the cost of government in Pennsylvania. Thank you. Thank you very much. And the way we're going to do that, I have up here my job description. The Constitution for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And there are things that I can do that I don't need the permission of the legislature. I don't need the permission of the courts. I could just go ahead and do it. And the biggest thing I'm going to use is the power of the veto. I'm promising I am going to veto every single tax increase that crosses my desk, bar none.
Yeah. Do it!
The cost of government, the growth is going to stop when I'm governor. Now, I should have mentioned from the beginning, I have 3, it's a 3-step plan. I always got 3 steps. People love 3 steps. So step number 1 is I'm going to veto every single tax increase. That will stop the growth of government in Pennsylvania. Do you know that 80% of Pennsylvania's budget is composed of giveaway programs? I'll get to that. That's part of number 3. Step 1, veto every tax increase. Step 2, the Constitution gives the governor the power of the line item veto. That means I can go through a bill and cross out things that I don't like. Expensive things, like the hundreds of millions of dollars we spend annually on horse racing. Why are we taxpayers supporting horse racing? I'll bet you there's a large segment of the population who feels that's immoral to bet on horse racing. But your tax dollars are going to it. That's like using your tax dollars for abortion or something like that. There are other examples, so many examples. There's the illegal gun registry that the state police like to have. There's a system in Pennsylvania, a beauty contest that you taxpayers pay for year after year after year after year. $20 million a year this costs taxpayers. You know what that beauty contest is called? Nobody? You guys are libertarians. You should know. It's called the primaries. The state-funded primaries every spring, whether it's April or May. The Democrat and Republican parties, they're private organizations. Why are we taxpayers paying for their beauty contest to see who it's going to be? Thank you. We libertarians, we pay for our own candidate selection process. I was selected by our convention in Shippensburg earlier this year. I paid for my hotel room. I paid to drive out there. We libertarians paid for the hotel.
Yeah.
You taxpayers didn't spend a dime on it. And here I am. I'm going to be on the ballot this fall. You're going to be able to vote for a tax-free candidate. How's that? Well, when I'm governor, they're going to all be tax-free candidates because I'm going to use that line item veto and I'm going to cross out funding for the primary elections.
Yes.
Let them choose their own, just like we do, just like the Green Party does, just like the Constitution Party does, just like the Communist Party does. Not that I'm a Green or a Communist, but I believe in free and equal elections, unlike the two old parties. And you know, just as a quick side thing, you know, in order for me to get on the ballot this year, I had to collect 5,000 signatures to get on the ballot. Governor Wolf, Mr. Wagner, they only had to collect 2,000. Why? Well, I don't know. The Constitution says all elections shall be equal. They said otherwise. They said, oh, no, you guys, you can get more. It's okay. You can do it. You can get 2.5 times as many as us. Stop complaining. At least we're letting you on the ballot. Except for the ones who get challenged, right? They're trying to throw some of us off the ballot this year. Gone. Line item veto. Pork barrel spending. Special interest spending. Wasteful spending. Junkets overseas. Gone, gone, gone. Pensions for legislators. Gone. The Constitution says, Article 3, Section 12? Correct me on that one. I don't think it's 12. It says, legislators shall receive salary, mileage, and no other compensation whatsoever. Well, what? They get offices, they get cars, they get pensions. Gone, 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 gone. We're going to return. When I'm governor of Pennsylvania, we're going to return to the rule of law. We're going to return to the Commonwealth Constitution of Pennsylvania. So not only will I be able to hold the line on taxes by using the regular veto, I'm going to be able to reduce the size of government by using the line item veto. Veto, line item veto, and now number 3. When I say these things, people say, oh, come on, Ken. What about the little old ladies on the PACE program getting their prescription drugs? What about education? What about this, that, all these other special interests that we're paying for? There's an easy answer. And it was already mentioned earlier today, the first person who spoke today. It's called the Universal Charitable Credit Act. Now, this has been done in New Mexico, Arizona. I think it's New Mexico. This isn't some pie-in-the-sky, strange libertarian idea. This is in effect right now in one of the United States, and it's working very well. The way it works is that you the taxpayer, can choose your own charity and donate your money to that. And then the money you donate, you could deduct dollar for dollar off the money that you pay in taxes, in state taxes. That way it's not some bureaucrat who's deciding where your money goes. It's not some politician who's trying to buy your vote, bringing in a pound of bacon when it costs 10 times as much as it should. It's you deciding what you think is best spent, where the money best belongs. If you think more money belongs for education, spend it there. If you think more money should be spent in helping people who have an opioid problem, you could spend it there. If you think that these 203 people who work in this house behind me, if you think they can do a better job, then you could just let them do their better job. But it's up to you. That way, we're going to be able to improve the quality of the services that we deliver here in Pennsylvania, because they're not going to decide, you are. Longer term, what I would like to see is that we take all these well-meaning programs, like for example the PACE program. It's a great idea to support people elderly who don't have their money. Hey, I'm getting elderly myself, right? I just got my Medicare membership card. We take those and we can help those. But I would like to move all those well-meaning programs out of government and into the private sector instead. And this Universal Charitable Credit Act is going to help us to do that. So there you go. 3 ways to reduce death, and the 3 ways to reduce taxes. Veto, line item veto, and the Universal Charitable Credit Act. Do you know the most famous Pennsylvanian, arguably the most famous Pennsylvanian in all history, Ben Franklin, once said, "We have our Constitution in place, and all appearances show that it seems to be working very well. But we have to remember that in this world, there's only 2 things that are certain: death and taxes." I would be the last person to gainsay Pennsylvania and arguably America's most famous citizen. But you know what? As your governor, I promise I will reduce them to the best of my ability. I see from my Toastmasters timer here that I still have some time left, so what I'd like to do is open up the floor to some questions. Does anybody have any questions? Because I focus on the 2 highest priorities, the theme of my campaign, which is death and taxes. I am the Libertarian death and taxes candidate. Yes, sir.
Ken, property taxes, speak to it.
Property taxes, good grief. Do you know, I don't have one of my flyers. My flyers has the 12-step plan for reforming Pennsylvania. And eliminating the property tax is number 2 or number 3. Somebody pick it up and just, what number is that? And Roy, just could you bring that up for me, because I'll refer to it again. This is number 4. My apologies. Number 1 is veto all tax increases. Property taxes are ridiculous. It's rent on your own home. You know, you bought it and now you're paying still thousands of dollars a year. I believe we should get rid of it. I will do everything I can to get rid of it. The first question I get is, do you support HB 76? Thank you, Doug. It is number 4. It probably should be higher up than that. People say, do you support SB 76? What that does, for those who are not aware, it eliminates the property tax, which is a great thing, but what it does is it moves it over to sales tax and other taxes. It's a shell game. The problem is still there. The problem is that education, the cost of education, is far, far, far too high in Pennsylvania. As my lieutenant governor candidate pointed out earlier, the Constitution says the Commonwealth shall run a thorough and efficient method of public education. It does not say that they run the Taj Mahals, one after the other. We could do it cheaper than anything. Another one of our candidates, Mark Bizzacco, running in the 153rd, did some research, and he found out that the average cost of education in Pennsylvania, private education, is less than half of what it is if you're going to a government school. And in my home township, Abington Township, the cost of government education is roughly $20,000 a student. Cost of a private education is roughly $9,000 a student. If we could privatize the schools and close down those Taj Mahals, we could cut property taxes in half overnight. Thank you. Now, we just got rid of half the problem. Now, there's more to it than that. Now, we can't use vouchers. Pennsylvania Constitution says no money shall be given to sectarian schools or anything like that. So we can't use vouchers because you can't use them on Catholic education or any kind of a secular education. So what we could do is allow for different kinds of education. The kind we have now, it's called the Prussian model, where the Prussian gets up in front and just tells you this is what it is. Lecture, 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 lecture. What I like is, those who are not familiar, Elon Musk, the guy who founded Tesla, the electric car company, SpaceX, a whole bunch of things like that. He's definitely a leader. He's opened up his own school. Not many people know that. And you know how he teaches kids? He says, what would you like to do? And then they go out and they do it. Of course, they focus on the 3 R's, but after that, it's the kids who decide. It's following the kids' interest. How many of you were bored when you were sitting in school? Look at that. Virtually every hand went up. You know why? Because it's the Prussian motto. You will sit and you will listen to what I have to say. Now, I have a Jesuit education, and they did the same thing to me. I learned about the religions of the world, philosophies of the world, and everything like that. I got a very broad education. I don't use a lot of it, but still, I had it. But what Elon is doing is he's focusing on the 3 R's, and then from there, he's letting the kids decide. And when the kids decide, it's the parents who are paying for that. So that big boxy building with all the windows and the desks where everybody says, "Good morning, teacher," and recites their patriotic pledge every morning, it's not necessary. My dad, he passed away now, but he was a tool and die craftsman. He would make jet aircraft parts. He didn't rack up $100,000 debt to learn how to do that. The Bud Company in Philadelphia took him on as an apprentice, and they trained him, and they paid him to learn. This whole educational model we have now needs a complete turning around. And I'm watching Elon Musk because he's on the right track. So if we do that, not only can we eliminate the property tax, we can eliminate the drain on the state treasury to pay for education as well. Now, special education, everything that's different, Kathy's already spoken to that. Any other questions? We still have time.
Should I be able to defend myself, my property, and my family?
Will you be able to defend yourself and your property? But when seconds count, the police are minutes away. What's the matter? No, of course. Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution says the right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. I have no question what that means. And this isn't some pie-in-the-sky libertarian idealism. There are states in the Union that follow this. There's something called Vermont carry. You don't need a permit, you just carry. That's all there is to it. People say, "Oh my goodness, think of all the deaths that come from guns." Well, President Obama commissioned the CDC to do a study on guns. And they found that gun-free zones had no appreciable effect on deaths. They found one thing after another, that background checks had no appreciable effect. There's a big long list of things, and I can't remember them all, and I've got them written down, but that's over there. I don't have them in my back pocket. But everything that they're saying, all the anti-gun people, the CDC found out they are not true. The best citizen is an armed citizen. And thank you. And you know what? When I ran in 2002 against Ed Rendell, a question came up in one of the first debates, in the first debate, about how do we protect women on campus. And I said the best way to do that is to allow people, especially women, to carry arms on campus. John Lott was a researcher at the University of Chicago. He did a nationwide county-level study, and he found out that the cities with the heaviest, strongest gun controls were the ones with the most gun deaths. I mean, look at Chicago. All these gun deaths in Chicago. You know why? Because the citizens are forbidden by law to defend themselves. The criminals are like, "Woohoo, let's go to Chicago. It's a field day smorgasbord." Come on. No. The best way to defend yourself is to defend the right to keep and bear arms. Because there's no question in my mind that gun control kills. Did I answer your question, sir? And I never say Second Amendment. I always say Article 1, Section 21, because the right shall not be questioned. It cannot be questioned. Much, much stronger. And I would argue that everybody should read their Pennsylvania Constitution. Article 1, it was written mostly by William Penn. Parts of it were written by Benjamin Franklin, and we know what great Americans they were. They secure all sorts of things, but of course, the people in this house behind us, they ignore it. Like the one that says all elections shall be equal, except I gotta get 5,000 signatures, but they get 2,000. And right to bear arms shall not be questioned, but they question it all the time, and I can go on, but my goal here is to hear what you have to say. Questions? Any other questions?
Ken,
Yes, sir.
would you support the Secretary's bill that would allow local municipalities, school districts, and counties to opt out of prevailing wage in its entirety?
Would I allow the local schools to opt out of prevailing wages entirely? entirely. I'm sorry, sir, but pardon me for correcting you, but you got the question backward. I believe, as a libertarian, that you have the right to live your life your way without interference, provided you respect the rights and property of others. If you're telling me that there's a law that says school districts can't live their own life their own way,
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
that shouldn't be there. What we should do, we shouldn't be passing new laws. We should be repealing that prevailing wage law. It drives up costs, drives up expenses, makes it more difficult for new entrants to get in there, because if I go in and I underbid somebody and they say, oh, are you a prevailing wage shop? No, if I was, it's going to cost you 5 times as much. Do you want that pound of bacon for $1 or for $10? It's your choice. I'm looking at things the other way around. I'm not looking to pass more laws. I'm looking to repeal laws. Any of these laws that are doing anything that limit your right to do what you want, provided you respect others, that's very important. You must respect others. And most people do. Most people live by the golden rule. Other questions? My Toastmaster buddy down there says I got time for one more. No? Anybody hiding under the tree? Any questions? I'm sorry I didn't even look at you. No?
How do you feel about privatizing police?
How do I feel about privatizing the police?
Yes.
We already have kind of privatized police. We have that all over the place. The place I work, I walk in the morning, there's the guard right there. He says, hey, Ken, how's it going? I'm not afraid of him. I'm not afraid he's going to shoot me in the back if I start running. We already have privatized police, so I have no problem with that. And I've heard that some municipalities actually do that. The store owners have banded together and hired their own people. There's no law against that. There's nothing that I have to do about it. And there are better ways to do it. By the way, I get into the details of how you can privatize a police force in my novel, Atlas Snubbed. So why don't you read my book and find out more about it. And somebody else had a question. They jumped in there. Yeah, Chuck. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
I want to build a porch on my house.
You want to build a porch on your house?
Do I need a building permit
Do you need a building permit?
to do that? It's my
Now-
property, right?
There's 2 answers to that. First answer is, yeah, you need one, because I've seen people have had to tear it down because they didn't have the permit in the beginning. One thing I found through my service in the local community and from my brother at PA 1 call, that they're the ones who say, well, you can and can't dig, is that some regulation is necessary. It's absolutely necessary, because what if the person who built that building used the wrong kind of steel, and now it falls over and it lands on the head of the gentleman here from PCN. We love PCN. Not meaning to hurt you, sir. Some regulation has its place, but it's not the place of government to do that. Instead, that's one of the programs we should transition to the private sector. And the people who are best situated to do that, because the same question came up last rally about worker safety, the people best situated to do that are the insurance companies. Because the insurance companies are the ones who are going to have to pay out if you screwed up. It's the same thing about worker safety. It's the same thing about your deck. It's the same thing about whatever it is you're building. Some level of regulation is necessary in order to protect people, and that level of regulation should be privatized. If the insurance company says, Chuck, that porch is going to collapse the minute you step on it, right? It's crazy. We'll insure it, but we're going to charge you $1 million for it. And you're going to say, forget it, I'm not going to pay $1 million. And you go ahead and build a porch anyway, right? And you invite your local Republican committeeman over. He sits on the porch, it breaks. He sues you for $100 million, right? Who's at fault there? You are. That's right. And who's going to defend us? The insurance companies. I had an insurance agent license from 2004 through 2016. I let it lapse because I'm not going to do anything more with it. I'm not selling insurance. I use it in the information technology business. I've done a lot of pharma work. It makes my credentials bubble to the top when I had that. But I'm telling you, insurance companies really care about the people that they serve. They're like the police. People say, oh, the police don't care about us. Oh, insurance companies don't care about us. Not true. Not true. I was on the inside of both. I went to the police academy. I was a licensed insurance agent in Pennsylvania. I'm telling you, they care. They care about whether or not your Republican committeeman is going to fall through the deck and kill himself. They care about worker safety. They care about whether or not this building is going to fall down. And they're the ones who should be patrolling this, not the people behind us. And if what you did is criminal, if you knew it was going to do it and you invited him up there, That's what? Entrapment, that's fraud, that's a whole bunch of crimes. They're already on the books. We don't need that. Yes, sir.
Are you for the new debt-free money and for the getting insurance across state lines?
Two questions there. Insurance across state lines, absolutely. That's a federal issue. I can't talk about that. But as for money, well, I hold Bitcoin. So, full disclosure, I sell my book for Bitcoin. It's pretty cool. I was selling it for Bitcoin when Bitcoin was about $100
How about
each.
the U.S. Treasury notes?
Well, wait. One thing at a time. Constitution, the United States Constitution, says that no state shall make anything besides gold or silver currency. That's what I would like to do. I would like Pennsylvania to issue its own currency backed by gold and silver. This is something I could do as governor. So that's what so if you want to use Federal Reserve notes, go ahead. But I know if I went into my corner store and I offered them a silver dime, mercury dime for a gallon of milk, I bet you they'd take it.
How about the U.S. Treasury note that Kennedy tried to...
Again, sir, I'm running for governor of Pennsylvania, not the president of the United States. I have no authority to either support or oppose anything that is legally done by the United States government. However, I can stop them when they're doing illegal things. I believe in the 10th Amendment and the 9th Amendment. If it's not in the Constitution, they can't do it. So if they send the EPA into Pennsylvania, they better report to the sheriff first and get the sheriff's permission. If they don't, I'm going to kick them out. And if the sheriff doesn't kick them out, I'm going to remove that sheriff for cause. That's a power the governor has in the Constitution. How many sheriffs am I going to have to remove before all 67 sheriffs get the message that they better stop the EPA or the DEA or the BATF or all those other alphabet soup agencies from coming into Pennsylvania? Because as governor of Pennsylvania, I'm going to stop federal intrusion. If it's not in the Constitution, they can't do it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. When I held up my arm, my right arm, and I swore an oath to uphold that Constitution, I meant it. All right, my Toastmaster buddy says my time is up. Good series of questions, sir. In closing, I just want to say what people tell me. They say, Ken, I love your ideas. We should stop the federal government. We should hold the line on them. We should end this insane war on drugs using the Portugal model. We should be improving education. We should be cutting the cost of government. We should be doing all these things. But Ken, face it. You're not going to get elected. No. I can get elected. And I will get elected this year. Do you know why? It's courtesy of the two old parties. What they have done is they have alienated so many people, nobody's going to vote this year. Typically in these off-year elections, 30, 35%. That means that all it takes to secure a Libertarian victory in Pennsylvania this year is for 1 out of 8 voting age Pennsylvanians to vote Libertarian. 1 out of 8 is all it takes. Actually, it's closer to 1 out of 9, but 1 out of 9, it does not rhyme. So if you're tired of high taxes, if you're tired of federal intrusion, if you're tired of the alphabet soup agencies coming in, if you're tired of death from police, death from opioids, death from the death penalty, if you're tired of high taxes, if you're tired of junkets, if you're tired of giveaway programs, if you're tired of all that stuff, if you love Pennsylvania like I do, if you love the beautiful forests, if you hike the Appalachian Trail, if you watch the sunset over Lake Erie, if you've sat in one of the streams, me and my wife, sitting on our chairs with our feet in the water on a hot summer day, if you love the diversity, hustle and bustle of our cities, then I ask you please, vote for me, Ken Krawchuk, Libertarian for Pennsylvania Governor. Because if people keep on voting the way they've been voting, they're going to keep on getting just what they've been getting. And I don't know about you, but I have had enough. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah.